So good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming in-house. I love seeing all your smiling faces. Thanks for joining us online, at home, wherever you happen to be. We appreciate that. How many of you have a friend? That's all I wanted to know in case anybody was looking for one. Notice my hand didn't go up. No, I'm just kidding. How many of you guys have that one friend? And I'm going to describe this a little bit, but it's that one friend that no matter how much time passes between hanging out, when you get together, it's reunited and it feels so good. You guys just jive, right? Okay, I've got some good friends. All right, Pastor Dan, everybody knows Pastor Dan is one of my closest, longest lasting friendships. We got a tight bond, brothers to the end. But Dan has a friend that he is so good with, he can't sit next to them at a funeral. And she just dropped her head. If you ever go to a funeral and Dan is not performing the funeral and Donna is in the house, sit between them. Jerome and I have had to separate them at funerals. I'm defending you guys, they can't help it. It's that type of friendship where they're like, we're not making fun of the dead person. We're just enjoying ourselves at a funeral. I recently ran into a friend that I haven't seen in a very long time, and I would say she's kind of like a Donna to me. We get together and it's like, oh, we got to kind of behave, all right? We just enjoy life together too much. So I hadn't seen this lady in forever, and she saw me from across the room, and her eyes got big, and I'm not going to lie to you, my eyes got big. I was like, oh, there she is. And I had to do this moment where I got a little too excited. I was like, don't cry. Don't cry. So I started walking up, and she's like, can I get a hug? And I was like, try and stop me. You know, I gave her this great big hug, and it was like we had never been apart. We just started talking. She's such a sister, and we were just going back and forth. And what's really weird is we picked up like no time had passed at all, except a lot of time had passed. And so she started telling me a story about how her mom had passed away. And I was like, oh no, that's terrible. But it wasn't terrible. It was a really cool story. She's like, man, my mom was in her 90s. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. She made it a good long time. How many of you guys are like, yeah, I'd love to make it to 90s? How many of you are like, no way, I'm falling apart now. Come Jesus, right now. The rapture would be great. I don't mind. So she's telling me about that, but then, you know, we were at work, and so there's people around. And do you ever see somebody share their faith, and they don't care who's around? That's a cool person to be around. And I was like, oh, we at work. We ain't in a church. And she's like, my mom's faith was so encouraging. She was like, my mom's faith was so inspiring. And I started feeling good. Have you ever heard somebody start talking about God in a positive manner, and you started feeling good too, and you're like, oh, is that okay? And I was feeling good while she's telling me about her mom passing away. But she didn't mind. She's like, my mom's in a better place. And to see how encouraged she was by her mom's faith and by her passing, she's like, it was hard losing my mom. But seeing my mom's faith, seeing my mom's hope, seeing my mom's excitement fueled me. And she's saying this to me, and I could see her glowing. And I'm there like this. Can I say amen at work? I was ready. I mean, we were going to have church. It was such a cool moment to be a part of. I tell you what, I left that conversation so excited, I just wanted a lightsaber. It was like one of those moments where we're like, I'm ready. So went back to work. It's like, okay. But that level of enthusiasm and excitement lifted me the rest of my day. I did not mind the tasks that were in front of me after that. What's interesting, though, is this happened this week, and last week Pastor Dan preached a message on anchored hope. Anchored hope. We're going to say that so many times today. And while I was interacting with my friend, I felt like that's what I was seeing live and in action right in front of me. I was seeing anchored hope. In Psalms 43, verse 5, David asks the question, and we got to ask ourselves this question often, right? Why, my soul, are you downcast? Why so disturbed within me? Here's the part that I really, really want us to catch. Put your hope in God. That is an actionable phrase right there. Put your hope in God. That is something that we get to choose to do, and nobody can stop us from doing that. Isn't that awesome? Put your hope in God. David gave us permission. We can step up and do it. For yet I will praise him, my Savior and my God. That is reason enough to put our hope in him. And what was really cool is I was watching my friend and I was thinking about this verse. I was like, she is choosing to put her hope in God. She could have been devastated by her mom's death. Instead, she was drawing closer to God, and she made the decision to put her hope in God. She was excited. So this morning, we're going to continue the message of anchored hope because I think we need encouragement administering hope. As those that carry God's hope, we need help administering it. We need encouragement here. We're going to look at David's life a little bit today. So if you're like, why do we keep talking about David? It's the plan. It wasn't by accident. I think David is such an inspirational person for hope, for excitement, for enthusiasm. So right away, I'm going to start off. I'm going to ask a few questions. And guess what? I'm going to ask 3 questions, and the answer is going to be the same for each question. And the answer is anchored hope. Can you say anchored hope? Anchored hope. We're going to do so good on this test. What does the world need? Anchored hope. I love you guys. What does God provide? Anchored hope. What should the church be all about? Anchored hope. Nice. That's it. Nothing else. But here's what's funny is we know this. Raise your hand if you know this. Yes. This is the core of our beliefs. But what I want to talk about today is our hope delivery system. We know it inside of here, but how do we get it out there? We all have hope, and we just need to realize that the delivery system could use some improvement, right? So think about this. A car with a full tank of gas does not go very far if the fuel pump is broken. How many of you have been in that car before? All right. Why is the house still cold? Well, the furnace can be working at optimum efficiency, but if the filter is clogged, you are shivering and there's blankets all over the couch, right? A Christian not excited about Jesus doesn't deliver much hope. And I'm saying this to me, and if it rolls over on you, I'm not sorry. A Christian not excited about Jesus does not deliver much hope. I'm just going to say it. I believe this. The church has been punched in the gut recently. We've had the wind knocked out of us, and we've been waiting on the sidelines for permission to be passionate and excited again. Now, I'm not just pulling that out of the air. It's just what I keep watching and seeing and being around other Christians. And I feel like most Christians are at this point, and they're like, I'm ready to go, but they don't have permission to jump. It's like we're holding back. We see our cards. We know that we're going to win, but for some reason, we're just holding them close to our chest. I'm going to say this to the believers. We need to get excited again. We need to get excited again. Do you remember last Sunday when Pastor Dan was telling that really great story about the mountain climbers going up K2, and they were all linked together, and there was 6 of them, and then all of a sudden one slipped, and the whole crew starts sliding down the mountain? I feel like Christians need to be like those people after they were saved when they start advertising for that ice pick company. Now you're with me. You're thinking about it, right? That is the greatest advertisement team ever. Why should I buy your ice pick? Well, let me tell you something, dude. Picture it. A sheet of ice, thousands of feet in the air. All of a sudden, you're sliding. You're plummeting to your death. It's going to go... icy grave. But no, the Ice Gripper 5000 plunges into the side of the mountain, saving us. You will talk like that about that ice pick for the rest of your life. Everybody will be like, hey, do you know which ice pick they use? Oh, I know which ice pick they use. I haven't stopped hearing about this ice pick on K2 for the last 17 years. That is how Christians can honestly be about our salvation. We can say John 3:16 the same way these people will be like, I'll tell you which ice pick to pick out because this one saved me and my 5 closest friends from impacting the earth at 120 miles an hour. We can be excited about Jesus. The Bible says, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. We should be saying so often and with excitement and enthusiasm. We should never, ever say, yeah, I'm saved, I go to church. Your mom should slap you with that mouth. This verse should sound familiar. Psalms 51, verse 12. Restore to me the joy of your salvation and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. The world is hurting for hope, and mopey-dopey Christianity is not enticing anybody. If we're lethargic about our faith, nobody is going to get excited. Have you ever had somebody run up to you and be like, tell me how excited you are about God? And you're like, it's kind of cool, go to church. That will never, ever happen. If you go, I'm excited about church, I really want to go with you then. Will never, ever happen. I would rather scare somebody away with my enthusiasm than nobody ever know by my apathy. Oh, got it. But here's why excitement is important. Excitement shows value. Dan and I were talking about when our kids were playing Little League Baseball. Little League Baseball is miserable. Nobody pays $40 to go sit and watch a Little League game unless their kid is playing. But the excitement we have as parents in the stand is because our kid is out there. They may be picking dandelions and swatting at butterflies, but that's my boy. We get excited about that because our kids have value to us. We get excited over the things that we find valuable. And if our salvation is valuable, then we should easily be excited about it. If we want people to receive the message of anchored hope in who Christ is, this is the verse we need to live. It's Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 9. But if I say I will not mention his word or speak anymore in his name, his word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. I kind of feel like that this morning. I've been wrestling with this, and I was reading that verse, and let me tell you guys something. I'm an electrician. I have felt electricity course through my body before. When the Spirit of God moves in your heart, it's stronger. When we truly let the presence of God in, it's a lot more than 120 volts. God created us to handle electricity. He knows how to excite our electrons, and we should be able to do that. We shouldn't be holding it in. We should not be able to hold it in. But here's my question. Is anybody here guilty of throttling back their excitement over God? Like, let's just be brave with each other. Yeah, like, I am literally on the inside a lot more excited about God than I show on the external. Yeah, I'm not the only one. Thanks for coming with me, guys. But when's the last time you were so excited and consumed by something that you described it like a fire in your heart, like a fire in your bones? We shy away from hope and excitement because we don't want to be let down. And that's what I'm talking about this morning, is we need that permission to get fired up again. God is looking for the Isaiah type that say, here am I, Lord, send me, with the attitude and the excitement that gets the guy next to you pumped. Have you ever been next to somebody that was excited and you're like, if I don't get on the board with this person, I'm going to sink. It's time to go. He's looking for someone excited enough about their faith that they'll step into the battlefield against a giant with a slingshot. We're going to talk about David real quick. This is my favorite moment in biblical history. I've shared this in sermons way too many times. You guys are probably tired of hearing about it. But I want to read through this because I feel like this is one of those movies. This is like an Avengers end scene type moment in Scripture where you're like, yes, you could feel the energy. On your left, this is one of those type moments, okay? So we're going to read it. 1 Samuel chapter 17. Slow down, Jason. You're stuttering. That's how you know I'm excited. Starting with verse 48. So we all know the story of David and Goliath, right? If you've never been to church, you know the story of David and Goliath. This is where we're picking up. As the Philistine, that's Goliath, moved closer to attack him, David ran quick. First of all, picture this in your head and just think about how long this would take. This is like seconds, okay? David ran quickly towards the battle line to meet him. Reaching into his bag and taking out a stone, he slung it and struck the Philistine on the forehead. The stone sank into his forehead, and he fell face down on the ground. So David triumphed over the Philistine with a sling and a stone. Without a sword in his hand, he struck down the Philistine and killed him. David ran over, stood over him. He took hold of the Philistine's sword, and because there might be kids watching, we'll just say he amputated his cranium. So after he had amputated his cranium, this is what happens next. When the Philistines saw that their hero, that's Goliath, was dead, this is the best of the Philistines. This is their mightiest warrior. They just threw their ace of spades right on the pile first off, like put Goliath out there so we can go home. This was their moment. When they saw that their hero was dead, they turned and ran. And I thought about this. If we were all together, right, and there was one guy that was against us, wouldn't we all jump him together? But like, let's take this dude out. There's only one of him and there's all of us. But it says they turned and they ran, because this is what I'm starting to think. Those Philistines were probably standing there and they're like, if they sent out a teenage boy and he took down our best, what are their warriors like? I don't want to stay and find out. Jeff, let's go. Let's just get out of here. That is the smartest move. But in verse 52, this is my favorite thing. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. Shepherd boy David moved past his doubts, his fears, his insecurities. He moved past what other people thought of him, because they were picking on him on the sidelines there, because this battle wasn't about him. This battle was about God and his people. That's what fired David up. David, before he went out on the battlefield, he was bragging about God. He never once was like, dude, I'm so good with a slingshot. He never said that. He said, God delivered me from a lion. God delivered me from a bear. And God is going to deliver me from this chump. Smack talking with God as your source of strength is okay sometimes. And I just picture this, and I'm like, how excited was David the whole way through? He was feeling that holy electricity because he knew he was stepping up for God. And what's really cool is his enthusiasm, his excitement is what broke the whole offense free to move forward. They were there for 40 days cowering over one Philistine. Their boy, the shepherd boy, bringing a sack lunch for his brothers, goes out and kicks the enemy's butt. It's like, oh, we got to go now. This is game on. And I was thinking about this. Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers and against the authorities and against the powers of this dark world and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realm. I believe that this is true right now for us in this world more than I've ever thought it. David knew his battle wasn't with that man Goliath, but he knew his battle was with that Antichrist type spirit that was in Goliath, that spirit that was mocking his God. And that's the battle we're honestly facing today. You may think your enemy is a person, but there is a spirit that is mocking God and trying to keep people from the loving presence of Jesus. We need to be able to step in there and be like, I'm going to hit you in the head with a rock. We need to not be afraid, because it isn't about us. It really isn't. We get to be a part of this victorious story, but it's really not about us. So whenever I'm feeling small or insignificant, unmotivated, apathetic, this is the verse that gets me. And I just read it to you. It was 52. Then the men of Israel and Judah surged forward with a shout and pursued the Philistines to the entrance of Gath and to the gates of Ekron. David's excitement gave permission and confidence to those that were around him, and they began to believe as they surged forward. And that word surge is such a cool word. It says it means they suddenly moved forward. And I think that's a cool imagery, because if you think about it, I would have expected it to be kind of like a domino effect. oh, Gary's taking off. If Gary's going, we're going. One at a time. No, it says they surged forward. It was like the whole line all of a sudden said, now. And everybody jumped at the same time and charged forward. I think that that's where the church is now. I think that's where we are. It's like, oh, it's time to surge. It's time for all of us to jump forward. Not wait for the person to the left or to the right to do it, but all of us to go for it. For excitement to be contagious, we only need one person to get excited first. We need one person to get excited first. And here's how I think it works. You guys have heard us talk for the last forever about the Tough Mudder. Dan and I weren't allowed to talk about the Tough Mudder for a certain amount of years because people were so sick of hearing us talk about the Tough Mudder. Hey, Tough Mudder, what'd you eat for breakfast, Tough Mudder? I mean, that was like our dialogue. And people were like, well, I'm either going to run a Tough Mudder or I'm going to slap these people. I can either get in or get out. So I'm going to show a video from a Tough Mudder, and this is something that we've talked about 100 times, and this is Mount Everest, and it's really just a quarter pipe that you have to run up, okay? And I'm going to show you this video, and if you look at the left side of the screen, that's me with the yellow headband. Okay, oh no, oh geez, this is embarrassing. Get my leg, dude. All right, so come on, guys. Ready? I did it! Woo-hoo-hoo! If you had the audio on, you can hear Kyle in the background shouting, "Get him up!" Best moment of my life. I'm like, thanks, brother, because they weren't. What's really funny is when I grabbed the guy's hand, the first guy whose hand I grabbed his hand, and he wasn't pulling me up. And we had this moment. It went a lot longer than what you saw there. We had this moment where I looked at him and I said, by taking my hand, you have just entered a contract with me. And what I want you to know is I will be coming up there with you, or you will be coming down with me. And he turns to his friends, and you saw it, and you're like, get a leg! Because I'm going to tell you what, there was no way I was going back down that hill. Because backstory, previously, a couple years before, Tony remembers this, we were trying to go up that hill again, and somebody was like lowering a shirt for me to grab, and I kept grabbing the guy's arm. I'm like, I don't need the shirt, I need your hand. So Tony ran up another side and got somebody to help him, and he comes over and he's like, get out of the way. Come on, Jason. He got me up there. It was great. The reason I was so pumped about this moment and getting up this hill is, I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm getting older. Even though I shave my head, there's not a lot up there to shave. I'm not really in the shape I used to be in. I think I was shaped more like an upside-down triangle. Now I'm more like a square. They say round is a shape. It's good. So for me to be able to get up this hill is kind of a big deal for me, all right? It was an emotional moment. I got up there. Then once I got up there, it became time for me to share my excitement, okay? So immediately I get up there, I thank the guy, I'm like, cool, we're good, we're best friends forever, I don't even know your name, you guys can go. I turn around and I see Tommy. All right, we're going to watch this video, the next part of this video. It might take a little bit longer than that first part. I'm going to narrate. Let's go. There's Tommy. Oh, watch this though. Easy peasy. Tommy Carante. We're excited. Now there's two of us getting excited. That's right. Don't look at the other people. Here comes Kyle Flood. Oh, he almost ran up there without any help. Gee, surprising, right? All right, Kyle's up there. No tambourine there. All right, here comes Lehman. We get Lehman up there. Piece of cake. Watch this. Boom. He's got it. Your brother's got you. We ain't letting you go. Some dude's up there with bullhorns. He's like carrying a bullhorn crown or something. I don't know what's going on with that. Now check this out. Ready? Come on. Here she comes. It's Tamara Flood. Yes! But do you see what's going on up there? we lowered Kyle and Tommy. We're holding on to their ankles, and we got her. But it gets even better. So Tamara's like 5'9", right? So that worked out good. But guess what? Here's what we got to do. Oh, it's going to be so good. Guys, I don't know if we're going to reach this next one. Okay, arm down. Oh, no, we're going to need a little bit more. I'm going to tell you about a miracle right here. This is Sarah. 5'3". She's 5'3". All right? She literally, okay, Tommy, stand up. That's Tommy's wife right there. Okay, she's 5'3". She literally hooked his finger with her finger. It was like that moment in Scripture where it's like the two became one. He's like, we're one. As long as we're touching, we're good. He's holding on to her. Oh my gosh. I don't even know why I showed that video. But there was no way we weren't getting our whole team up there. You saw how far we had to lower each other, and we're hanging onto each other's feet, and we lowered. We didn't care. Sarah could have been 3 foot tall. She was coming up that hill. And what was so cool is once we were all up there, we were excited. We were jamming. We were like, man, this is awesome. We did it. We saw a challenge. We overcame it. We were pumped. But what's really cool is we don't know the first person that got up that hill. Earlier in the day, somebody got up there, and then there was this domino effect of people staying, turning around, and helping somebody else come up there. And what's really cool is you're looking, and you're like, that person's up there. That means I can get up there. If they're up there, I'll be up there soon too. And that excitement, and somebody at the top, they're like, it was rough. I slid. I fell down a couple times, but I'm up here now. And because I'm up here, you're going to be up here. And that is what the church needs to be. We need to be a little bit excited and say, I'm not going to let you stay at the bottom of the hill if you want to come up. I will lower 15 people down, and we will all pull you up, but you will come up. In fact, there was a friend of ours that ran kind of separately, and there was a rope lowered, and they pulled her up. They're like, you want to be up here? We're pulling you up on a rope. And these dudes pulled her up. But what I think about sometimes is I never met the person that built this church. When they built this church, they had to be ecstatic. They had to be pumped. They had to be so excited. We're here today because somebody did that then. You don't know who is going to be inspired by your excitement right now. You don't know who's watching you, who's feeding off of your energy. So sometimes you may feel like you're all alone. Maybe you feel like you look ridiculous, but somebody might be feeding off your energy and saying, I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer to getting loud. I'm getting closer to getting out of my comfort zone. If you keep going, I'm going to keep going with you. You may not see me. I might be in the shadow, but eventually I'm going to pop out, and I'm going to appreciate you being willing to stick with it. And that's where we are right now. Another thing that just blew my mind, we're going to get back to Scripture. Another example of contagious excitement and the spreading of hope is when Israel came back with the Ark of God. The literal presence of God returned to the people. They were so excited. This is what happened. 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 14 through 22. And we know this verse. Ready? And David danced before the Lord with all his might. I can't tell you the last time I did all my might. Wearing his priestly garment. So David and all the people of Israel. That's a cool thing to think about. This is unity right here. All the people of Israel brought the ark of the Lord, with shouts of joy and the blowing of ram's horns. Somebody blew a ram's horn in here right now. Everybody like, shh, I'm trying to listen to the sermon. But these people are living it. Their hearts are full of fire. Their bones are full of fire because the presence of God had returned. They were excited about the presence of God, and they had to physically let it out because they were so enthused. King James says this the best in Psalms 122. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. Do you get excited to come to church? Do you get excited to come into the presence of God? Do you come into church like this? Psalms 100, verse 4. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give him thanks and praise to his name. That should be us. No matter what the week has looked like, we should walk in like we are about to get a dose of chocolate. I'm ready for this. I'm hungry for this. Bring it on. But I'll be honest, I feel like my enthusiasm and my excitement has gradually been tanking. You know, it's not like it just drops off one day. You feel it kind of slope down. And God has been challenging me big time. A line from an old Keith Green song has been going through my head lately, and it has become my prayer. A Keith Green song. Raise your hand if you know who Keith Green is. Oh, you're my people. Here's the line that's been going through my head. Oh, Lord, please light the fire that once burned bright and clear. Replace the lamp of my first love that burns with holy fear. It's just been going through my head. Please light the fire. Please light the fire. I want God to do it. I don't want to just make it happen. I want it to be Him setting me on fire. I know what excitement feels like. Do you know what excitement feels like? Okay, you're not just a bunch of lazy bums, right? You're like, oh no, I'm a passionate person. I know what excitement feels like. 13 years ago was one of the most exciting moments in my life. I used to do deadlift competitions. I've mentioned that before in the past. So my last one, I'm going to show a video of it here. Actually, go ahead and show that video. Here it is. I had a hat on, a goatee. Watch this. Boom. See that fist pop in the air? The clip is like this long, but let me tell you what led up to it. For months leading up to it, I had had an injury, and I had to rehab. I had to repair. I had to heal. I had to take time. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do this again. I honestly thought that. And as I was getting better and I was able to start moving again, I was like, maybe I can. Maybe started existing in my head. Maybe started giving hope to me. And so I was doing good, and some of my friends that I was training with, they're like, you're getting back. You're coming back. And I'm like, man, this is going good. And the months leading up to that exact moment, that 10 seconds that you saw, the months leading up to it, I was training hard, and I was picturing that moment. I was envisioning it. I'm going to tell you what, I was driving to work, and I would realize that I was picturing what was going to happen so intently that I was white-knuckling the steering wheel. And I realized I was putting my fingerprints into that steering wheel. That was my truck. I was holding that wheel so tight, and I was driving like this, and I was picturing it. And I was getting so amped up, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm driving to work, calm down. I can't imagine what people driving next to me were thinking. Like, what is he doing? I'm like, but I brought myself to it because I valued it. I wanted it. It was a moment in my life where I was like, it's not so big of, like, I'm going to tell you, that was a state record. I broke the state record in that video by 10 pounds. That's 10 pounds. 10. I beat it by 10 pounds. Do you want to know what's so great about that? I took second place. Because the guy's record that I broke by 10 pounds went out 2 minutes later. They slapped 5 pounds on each side. That's 10 more pounds. And he started pulling it. I go. But I was excited for him. He earned it. If I was going to be beat, I wanted to be beat. But what was important to me is that I got to be a part of it. I got to go through that. I got to watch God get me there. It was okay that somebody beat me because I knew that I gave my best. I knew that was all my might. Everybody's like, you think you could do more? I was like, no. And I'm glad. It was heavy. But I got myself so worked up, and you saw my fist pump in the air because I'll tell you what, the energy that I felt at that moment, I felt like I could go nuclear. You ever felt that way? You're like, and that fist pump in the air, I don't know, I might have bawled my eyes up and crying, or who knows what. Something had to come out of me. And I started thinking about it. This is ridiculous. If I can be that excited about bending down, grabbing a bar, standing up with it, putting it back down, how much more excited should I be about a Savior that hung on a cross? Literally. I was that excited about standing up with a bar, putting it down. Nobody's ever seen that video since. But Jesus is saving us day after day. His blood washes over us. He's forgiving us constantly. He loves us to the grave and back. How much more excited should we be than an idiot standing up with a bar? Everybody cheered for me. It was great. But that's where my heart is today. How do we get excited again? How do we get excited again? And I was thinking about this, the only surefire way that I know that works. Think about this. When you're cold, you stand by the fire. When you're hungry, you come to the table. It's in His presence that we're warmed, and it's in His presence that we are fed. Moses came down from the mountain after being with God, and people couldn't even look at him. Couldn't even look at him from being in the presence of God. Hope is found in His presence. Excitement comes from being in His presence and being around other people that are excited. I wish I could give you a fancier formula, but honestly, I think it just comes down to that. Put your hope in God. Place yourself around excited people. Get in God's presence. He kept it simple because we couldn't do it if it was any more complicated than that. We struggle with that enough. I mean, am I right? Worship team, you want to come back up? Man, I just got to say I love this worship team. Last week was amazing. And then we came in this week, and they did it again. They brought the energy, and it was so exciting. And this morning, I asked the team if they would close with the song that we started with last week. If you weren't here for the countdown, you would have missed it. The song is called Might Get Loud. All right? And I was really thinking about that title. It should get loud when we are singing these words. Okay? And I'm going to read a couple of them to you. It should get loud, okay? I don't got a halo. Raise your hand, you got a halo yet? No. No, I'm not a perfect man. I'm just glad to be a child of God. When I think about where I could have been, should have been, would have been, if you hadn't stepped in, I got a praise on the inside that can't be denied, and I got to get it out right now. It might get loud. And I was really thinking about this. It might get loud if you've got a testimony. You got a testimony? It might get loud if you've been in God's presence. Have you ever been in God's presence? It might get loud if you feel like practicing for eternity. Rachel, I think you said it best the other week. If you think church is boring, you're going to hate heaven. If you ain't a fan of getting in God's presence and getting excited about Him, heaven will be miserable, and I don't think you like the alternative. So we should learn to be excited about God. And it might get loud when you think about how crazy God is for you. When you think about how insanely in love God is with you, that should increase your volume. And I know some people, like, I'm not an excitable person. You know, they might say, you know, that's not really my thing. And I'll challenge you in that a little bit. I would bet if the person that you cared about most in your life was about to get hit by a truck, you might get loud. And if you didn't, what is wrong with you? If you didn't scream, hey, you're going to be hit by a truck, move, you would be a horrible person. So don't tell me that you don't have the capacity to get loud and get excited about something. I just showed you where you could. Now let's apply it this way. And as these guys begin to play and begin to sing and lead us, I want you to reflect on God, who He is, what He's done in your life. And I want you to even be bold enough to think like David, be like, I'm about to go into something. And I want to be excited now because I know God's going to do something in that something that I'm going to go into. And it might be rough. I might get bruises. I might get scrapes. I might not like it. But I'm going to see God in it, and I will walk out with a testimony. And I can share that testimony, and that will excite somebody else. And this domino effect can keep going. Are you with me?